Welcome to day 51 of our 90-day SAT prep series. This is Preeminent Test Prep. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share. So for today, what we're going to be doing for day 51 is we're going to be spending about half an hour with the Math No Calculator section, and then we'll be spending about 20 to 30 minutes with the SAT reading section. So for today's Math No Calculator section, yesterday you took SAT Practice Test 2's Math No Calculator section, and you really focused on your pacing there. So you were able to go through that and make sure that you were able to solve them in a good amount of time. And what today we're going to be doing, if you haven't graded yours from yesterday yet, that's okay, because today we're doing a walkthrough of that same SAT Practice Test 2. I'll be doing it in 25 minutes, so I'll be timing myself. I'll be following the pacing strategy that I outlined in day 44 and that I've been showing you over about the last week. So hopefully you're starting to pick up on how pacing is important and the reasons why we do it. And hopefully it's getting easier to you as you go on. Now, today what you want to pay attention to, if you struggled with time yesterday, then what you want to pay attention to today is how I'm solving these problems, okay? So if you're following our pacing and you're still coming up a little bit short on time, then what you want to do is make sure that you're solving them efficiently, okay? Which means you want to pay attention to the way that I'm solving these. Because when I go through and I solve these, I'm looking for the most efficient way to do it. And there are ways that take a lot more time. And what your problem might be is you might be taking the least efficient way to get to your answer, and you want to be taking the most efficient way. So if you struggled for time yesterday, pay attention to how I'm answering them. Now, say you got them all correct yesterday, but you only had about a minute left or 2 minutes left, you're going to want to make sure that you have more than that because you're going to want to be able to go back and check your work. Okay, so pay attention once again to how efficient I am. Pay attention to the steps that I'm doing. See if you can do them the same way in that quick amount of time rather than taking an extended period of time and losing that time to check your work. So with that, we're going to get started here in about 13 seconds. Once my clock hits 2 minutes, your clock will show it shorter because I have to cut out the intro part. But yeah, we're going to get started here in about 5 seconds. So I'll be going through 25 minutes just like I would if it were the real SAT, beginning right now. All right, let's get started. This is practice test 2. So we've got number 1. If 5x plus 6 equals 10, what's the value of 10x plus 3? Okay, first thing that jumps out to me immediately, I've got 5x here, I've got 10x here. So I know if I go ahead and subtract 6 from each side, 10 minus 6 is 4, 5x is 4, 10x is double that, which means 10x is 8, 8 plus 3 gives me 11, so my answer there is going to be C. Okay, number 2. I've got stacked equations. I'm asked about a following ordered pair that satisfies that system above. Okay, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and solve for not x because I see that there's 2 of those. I'm going to solve for y because I see there's only 1, 2. So if y is 2, then I can go ahead and solve for that. So I'm going to go ahead and add these together after I double my top one. That way I have 2y minus that 2y. So I do that, I got to apply this 2 to the x as well and the 2 to the 0. I'm going to get 2x plus 3x, that's 5x. Or I guess I'm solving for y first, or for x first. But either way, that's okay. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So we do that, we get rid of our y that way. Now we have 2x plus 3x, that's 5x. And then we have 10, and that's what that's equal to. Divide each side by 5. We see that then x is going to equal 2, so our answer there is going to be B. Okay, so that one worked fine anyways. So B will be our answer for 2. Now we got question 3. Okay, I've got a word problem. A landscaping company estimates the price of a job in dollars using the expression 60 plus 12 NH, where N is the number of landscapers who will be working and H is the total number of hours the job will take using N landscapers. Which of the following is the best interpretation of the number 12 in the expression? Okay, that 12 is getting multiplied by our number of landscapers and the number of hours. So then that 12 must be the cost per hour per landscaper. So that's answer choice A for number 3. Okay, now we can go ahead and move on to questions 4 and whatever else is. Oh, questions 4 is right here. Which of the following is equivalent to the expression shown above? Okay, the first thing I'm looking at is this 9a4, a to the power of 4. I'm going to be looking for a 3a squared and then squaring that equation there. So I see that a's got that. C and D, they have 2 options that are unacceptable. I'm looking at this one right here. I need to match this to I see I've got 4b to the 4th at the end. That's positive. If I see I have plus 2b squared times 2b squared is 4b to the 4th, so that's good. As far as option B, this one right here, I see 2 times 2, that's going to give me 4, and then I have to multiply by 2 again because that's to the 4th. That's going to get me over that 4, so that's going to be too big. Therefore, my answer is going to have to be A for number 4. All right, number 5. If k is greater than 0, that just means k has got to be positive. X equals 7. What's the value of k? Okay, I plug in 7 here. I'll add 7 to each side. Add 7 to each side. Get rid of that. Put a 7 here. Next thing I'm going to have to do is I'm going to square each side. 7 squared I know is 49, so I'm going to have 49 then is going to equal 2k squared plus 17. I got to subtract 17 from each side so I can isolate that k. I do that, I'm going to get 32 equals 2k squared. I'm going to divide each side by 2. That's going to give me 16 is equal to k squared. I take the square root of each side to isolate k. Square root 16, I know that that's going to be 4, so my answer there is going to be C. Okay, now I've got question 6. Okay, so I've got two lines. Line L is parallel to line K, which means it's got the same slope. What's the value of P? Okay, first thing I'm going to do is find the slope. I see I go over 5 and I go up 2. I see over here I got to go up by 4. If I got to go up 4, I know that that's double going up 2, which means I got to double what I go to the right, which means I got to go to the right 10. I start at 0, therefore P must be 10. So my answer for 6 is going to be D. Okay, question 7. Okay, I've got stacked equations with same base, different exponents, equal x to the 16th. X is greater than 1. A plus b is 2. What's the value of a minus b? All right, so I've got x to the power of a squared. I can go ahead and subtract that b squared then. So I'll have x to the power of a squared minus x, or minus b squared. Okay, I know that that's equal to x to the 16th. Therefore, 16 then, 16 must equal a squared minus b squared. Okay, I know that a squared minus b squared is the same as a plus b times a minus b, and that's got to equal 16. I know that a plus b is 2, so I can go ahead and plug in a 2 there. I got to solve for a minus b, divide each side by 2, get rid of that. 16 over 2, that's going to give me 8 then. So 8 will be a minus b, so answer there is going to be A for number 7. All right, number 8. Okay, number 8's right here. Measure A in degrees of an exterior angle of a regular polygon is related to the number of sides of the polygon by the formula above. If the measure of an exterior angle of a regular polygon is greater than 50 degrees, okay, so that means that A has got to be 50 degrees or more. What's the greatest number of sides it can have? I divide each side by 50 to get rid of that. What is 360 over 50? 360 over 50, I know that's going to be right around 7.2, I believe. Okay, so I see that if that's going to be right around 7.2, then the maximum number of sides I can have then is going to be 7, right? Because if we were going to have 7 right here, then that right there is going to be right around 51 point something, right, which is greater than 50. But if we were to have 8 sides, then that's going to have to be less than 50. Okay, so our answer there is 7. Now we've got question 9. Question 9. So 8 we got, let me go back. Okay, number 9. Graph of a line in xy plane has a slope 2, contains point 1 and 8, which means it's going to be y equals 2x. I got to move 2 down since it's a slope of 2 and I'm going to the left, so that's going to be 2x plus 6. Next, I'm told the second line has these 2 points. If they intersect somewhere, what's the value of a plus b being these 2 points? Okay, the other line, the equation for that one, I see that I've got a slope. As I move right by 1, I go down by 1, so a slope of negative x. Okay, and I need to solve for what they equal, so I'm going to set them equal to each other. And I know that my y-intercept is going to be, if I go down 1 as I move to the right, if I'm moving to the left, I got to add 1, so that's going to be plus 3 then, since we have 2 at x equals 1, at x equals 0, we're going to have plus 3. Okay, now I just go ahead and solve for x. I add x to each side. I'm going to get 3x, subtract 6 from each side. That's going to give me negative 3, so 3x equals negative 3, divide each side by 3. When I do that, I'm going to get x equals negative 1. Okay, keep in mind that that's not my correct answer because I need a plus b. At this point, I know at negative 1, right, if I've got negative 1, I just plug in negative 1 into this equation right here. This y equals 2x plus 6. I got 2 times negative 1. That's going to give me negative 2 plus 6. Negative 2 plus 6 gives me 4, which means now I have to take that 4, add it to the negative 1. Since we have to solve for a plus b, that's going to give me positive 3. Positive 3. So answer there is going to be B for number 9. Okay, at this point we go ahead and we go down and answer 16 through 18 since they're going to be easier than the other ones, that 10 through 15 will be. So we have the sales manager in general. The sales manager of a company awarded a total of $3,000 in bonuses to the most productive salespeople. Bonuses were awarded in either $250 increments or $750. If at least one $250 bonus and at least one $750 were awarded, what's one possible number of 250? Okay, let's say that they did 2 $750 bonuses. 2 times 750 is going to give me 1,500, so that means I'll have 1,500 left to divide by that $250 bonuses were given out, and that's going to leave me with 6. So my answer there could be 6. Okay, there's a couple answer choices. In this case, we're going to go with 6 because that's what I decided. Okay, now we've got question 17. Let's go ahead and get there. And the equation above, a, b, and c are constants. If the equation is true for all values of x, what's the value of b? Okay, I got to solve for b. I know that my b value here is going to have to be whatever it is on my left side of the equation as well. So I'm going to find what my x values are. I got 2x times 5, that's going to be 10x. Then I see I've got 3 times 3x, that's going to be plus 9x. That's going to total 19x, which means that b is going to have to be 19. So my answer there is going to be 19. All right, number 18. Let's go to our right here. We've got a geometry problem. We got 2 parallel lines. AE is parallel to CD. Segment AD intersects CE at B. What's the length of CE? So solving for the length of CE. Okay, I see that that's from here all the way to here. I see I've got an 8 here. Okay, what I see is I got vertical angles right there. I know that this angle here has to be the same measure as this one here. Next thing that I can do, that's because they're parallel lines. Next thing that I can do is I can see I go from 10 to 5 here. So I want to go from 8 to 4 right here because I see that my similar triangle is going to have half of whatever it is on this side, which means we're going to have half of 8 be right here, which is 4. Now I add my 8 to my 4. I do that, and I'm going to get 12 as my answer for number 18. 12 will be my answer for 18. Okay, next I got questions 19 and 20. I'm going to glance at them, see if they're easy. If they are, I'm going to go ahead and solve. That one looks easy. One on the right also looks easy because I see it's got that setup, right, of those two where I'm going to be able to add or find whatever ratio or whatever. And then this one also looks pretty easy because it's just geometry. So in the xy plane above, O is the center of the circle, and measure angle AOB is pi over a radians, solving for the value of A. Okay, so that's going to be my angle right there that I've marked. I see I have a root 3 right here because that's my x value, and I see I go up by 1. Okay, what do I see here immediately? I see that that's going to be a 60, 30, 90 triangle. Because a 60, 30, 90 triangle, I'm going to quickly show this, even though I wouldn't if I were taking the SAT. 60, 30, 90 triangle would look something like this, an x there, an x root 3 there, and then a 2x there. In this case, I have a 1 here, and then I have a 1 times root 3. So that fits it. That tells me that this angle right here then is going to have to be 30 degrees. Okay, if it's 30 degrees, we know that 30 degrees, then we take that, multiply by the fact that we have 1 pi per every 180 degrees, and we see that we're going to get our answer being pi over 6. So our answer there for A is going to be 6. Right? That's going to be the value of that A right there. So 6 is going to be our answer for 19. Now we got question 20. In the system of equations above, A and B are constants. If it has infinitely many solutions, what's the value of A over B? Infinitely many solutions means that we have the same slope and also the same y-intercept. If there's infinitely many solutions, I see to get from my y-intercept there, I got to multiply by 5. Okay, I got to multiply by 5. Or if I'm going from 60 to 12, I got to divide by 5. So in this case, what I can look to do is just divide by 5 going from 8 to B. So I'm going to have 8 over 5 is going to be B. Now for A, it's going to be 2 over 5, since I got to divide by 5 going this way as well. So A will be 2 over 5. Now I just solve for A over B, so that's going to be 2 over 5, 2 over 5 over 8 over 5, which can be rewritten as 2 over 5 times 5 over 8. Okay, we do that, 5's cancel, we get 2 over 8, which we know is equal to 1 over 4. So answer there is going to be 1 over 4. Okay, at this point we go back and we answer 10 through 15. So let's get back, find wherever 10 is. Looks like it's right here. Which of the following equations has a graph in the xy plane for which y is always greater than or equal to -1? Okay, that means it's always got to be greater than or equal to -1. What jumps out to me immediately, this first one, we've got absolute value. That could be 0. 0 minus 2, that's less than -1. That's wrong. Right here, this could be 0. 0 minus 2, also less than -1. Right here, it's some value squared. Any value squared has to be positive, or at minimum 0. Can't be less than 0, so answer is going to have to be C. Number 11. Okay, I've got imaginary numbers. What's equivalent to this? Which imaginary number is equivalent to this? What I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply by my complex conjugate. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this so I have room to go ahead and write my complex conjugate. That's going to be 8 minus 2i over 8 minus 2i. Okay, I do this. My denominator, 8 times 8 gives me 64. Next thing that I'm going to have is a 2 times negative 2i. That's going to give me negative 4i squared. So negative 4i squared, I know that that's going to become a positive 4. So I'll have plus 4. That's going to give me 68. Okay, up top, I'm going to have a 3 times a 5. That's going to get, or I'm sorry, a 3 times 8. That's going to give me 24. Then I've got a negative 5i times a negative 5i times negative 2i. That's going to be positive 10i squared, which becomes negative 10 since I squared is negative 1. Then I have negative 5i times 8, so that's minus 40i, and then I have negative 2i times 3, which is going to be negative 6i. Okay, I can go ahead and simplify that. 24 minus 10 is going to be 14 over 68, which I know is going to equal 7. When simplified, that's going to be 7 over 34 because we can divide each by 2. And then I'm going to have that much minus. It's going to be 46i, since negative 40i minus 6i is negative 46i. That's all over 68. Once again, we can divide by 2, put it over 34 there, and then 46 over 2 is going to give me 23. So minus 23i. So answer here is going to be 7 over 34 minus 23i. Over 34. Let's look for an answer that's got that. Okay, I see that I've got it right here. So my answer there is going to be C. So that's C for number 11. Okay, now we've got question 12 right here. We've got a website. I see immediately what I see is I have everything that is set for what f equals, so I don't even have to read this. I can just find what f equals. Multiply by n plus f. Get rid of that. Multiply that r by n plus f. Okay, I distribute. Now I'm going to have NR plus FR equals F. I got to subtract FR because I got to solve for F, so I need it all on one side. So I get all my F's on one side here. Okay, I do that. Now I see I can factor out F. Now I can just do F times 1 minus R. At that point, I divide each side by that 1 minus R. Just get F equal to something. Now I have NR over 1 minus R, and that'll be my answer there for what F equals. NR over 1 minus R. I see that that's going to be right here. That's answer choice B for number 12. Okay, now we've got question 13. Okay, I've got values, the sum of the values of m that satisfy this. Okay, right away I see I can take a 2 out, so I'm going to take a 2 out, multiply by m squared minus 8m plus 4 then equals 0. At this point, I see that I could factor this as being m and then plus some number. We'll call it r because it doesn't matter. We'll call it r1, and we see it's going to have to be minus because we have a minus sign right here. So we know that, or I'm sorry, we know it has to be a minus because we have a minus sign there and a plus sign here. Okay, so then we're going to have minus there. We'll call this one r2, whatever it is. Okay, because then that gets us this positive here, and we'll also have that negative there. Okay, so at that point, what we know then is that the sum of those values, right, that negative r1 value plus negative r2 has to equal that negative 8. We can flip the sign on all of those, and that will give us r1 plus r2 then has to equal positive 8. So our answer there is going to be D for number 13. Okay, what one are we on at this point? 14. We got 14 down here. A radioactive substance decays at an annual rate of 13%. So I know I got to multiply by 0.87 for whatever's left. If the initial amount is 325, so 325 goes here. Which of the following functions models the remaining amount t years later? Okay, remaining amount means that I got to get rid of whatever's getting decaying. So that's 13%, which means I'm going to have 0.87%, or I'll have 87% remaining, which we can write as 0.87 raised to the power of t. So our answer then is going to be answer choice A for 14. So that one really is just understanding the equation for exponential growth and decay, which we outlined in week 1. 15, we've got this equation up here. It's equivalent to what? In order to solve for this one's just going to be a division problem, right? 5x minus 2. I'll rewrite that 5x minus 2. Okay, we got to multiply by a 5 to get rid of our 5x. So now we'll have minus 5x. Okay, we have to multiply this 5 by that 3 then. That's going to be plus 15, plus 15. Okay, 5x minus 5x gives us 0. Negative 2 minus 15 gives me negative 17. Okay, that's going to be my remainder. My remainder is negative 17, which means my answer there is going to be D. Okay, so that takes us through all of our problems. It looks like we finished that in right around 15 minutes and 50 seconds, it looks like on my screen. So just about 16 minutes. We got 9 minutes left to check our work. As I said in the pacing video, at this point, what I would do is I would go through and I would just make sure that everything in my answer sheet matches what's in my test booklet as far as the answers go. So I'm going to allocate that time here, so that way it's simulated like the real thing. So we're going to go ahead and just run through it just like I would if I were checking my answer booklet. So we've got 1C, we've got 2B, we've got 3A, we've got 4A, we've got 5C, we've got 6D, we've got 7A, we've got 8C, we've got 9B, we've got 10C, we've got 11C, we've got 12B, we've got 13D, we got 14A, we got 15D, we got 16, 19, 16, 6, 17, we have 19 as our answer choice. And then number 18, we have 12. Number 19, we have 6. I believe we have 6. Yep, 19, we've got 6. Number 20, we've got 1/4. All right, so that takes us through checking our work. Keep in mind that I took a long time there checking, like cross-checking, just because I wanted to account for the fact that I didn't have to write anything in my answer bubble sheet as I went through, right? I talk about how after every page I would be filling in my answer sheet if I were doing this paper and pencil. In this case, obviously, I can't do that because I'm doing it digitally, but I wanted to take more time there just to kind of account for that amount of time. So after that point, I've checked everything in my answer booklet, made sure it matches my test booklet. Now I go through and check my work. Okay, so I've got 5x plus 6 equals 10. What's 10x plus 3? Well, 5x, I can go ahead and subtract 6 from each side. 10 minus 6 is going to be 4. 5x is 4. That means 10x is going to have to be double that, which is 8. 8 plus 3 is going to give me 11, so that one's correct. Number 2. Okay, I go down here. I can get rid of my y's by multiplying my top one by 2. When I do that, and then I add them, I get rid of my y's. I'll have 5x total. That's going to equal 10, which means x will have to equal 2. That one's correct because there's only one answer choice where x is 2. Number 3, I've got landscapers. I'm asked for what 12 means. I see 12 is multiplied by n and h, where n's number of hours, the number of landscapers working, h is how many hours the job takes. That's telling me that the landscaper, each landscaper is earning $12 per hour. Okay, so the company's charging 12 bucks for each landscaper. So A is correct. That's checked. 4. I've got which of the following is equivalent to the expression above. All right, so I've got a 9a to the 4th. That's going to mean I have to have 3a squared with that squared right there. That works. I've got 2b squared. That matches up to that 4b squared since this is squared. As far as the other options, I see that the other options C and D have 9a squared. Those are going to be wrong. This one right here is raised to the power of the 4th with 2 here. That means that that 2 is going to end up being, I believe, 16, which means that's going to be wrong as well. So A is correct. Number 5. Okay, I've got k being positive. X is 7. If x is 7, okay, if x is 7, I got to add x to each side. So I've got a 7 here. I square it. That's going to give me 49. Okay, the square root's gone because I squared it. At that point, I subtract 17 from each side. That's going to give me 32. 32. Okay, now that's gone. At that point, I divide each side by 2. That's going to give me 16. So now I'm going to have 16 then equals k squared. Square root 16. That's going to be 4. 4. So my answer there is correct. Number 6. Going down here, I got line K is parallel to line L. What's the value of P then? I see P is right there. Okay. I see if I go over 5, I go up 2. So if I'm going over 10, I must go up 4. And I see then that P then has to be 10 since we started at 0 and we went from -4 to 0. So answer there, that's checked as well. Number 7, I see that I'm going to have x to the power of a squared then minus b squared since that's division. I then see that a squared minus b squared has got to equal to 16 right here. At that point, I know it's going to be a plus b times a minus b. I know a plus b is 2. Therefore, 2 times 8 must give me that 16. So my answer is going to have to be 8. That's correct as well. Number 8, we've got NA equals 360. I know A is my angle in degrees. It says that it has to be more than 50. If it has to be more than 50, then the number of sides then, dividing 360 by 50, that is going to give me that right around 7.2. So my maximum number of sides is 7. That's correct. Number 9, I've got a graph with a slope of 2. It's got points 1 and 8, which means its equation is going to be 2x plus 6 because if I subtract 2 from 8, I get that 6. I know my other equation. I see here I go from 1 to 2. That's an increase of 1 in my run. I see I rise -1, so I'm going to have negative x be my slope there. I see if I go back from 1, I got to go up by 1. That gives me plus 3. So that works there. At that point, I'm just going to go ahead and add x to each side. That's going to be 3x, subtract 6 from each side. That's going to give me -3. Therefore, x is going to have to be -1. So if x is -1, then I have a -1 there. Whatever b is going to be, well, at -1, I see then that if I plug in -1 into 2x, that's going to give me b being 4. -1 plus 4 is 3. That checks out as well. At this point, I'm going to go check 16 through 18 very, very quickly. Okay, I've got 16. We've got 3 grand in bonuses. We've got 1 has to be 250, and 1's got to be 750 at least. So let's go ahead and pick to do 750 ones. If we do that, we're going to end up with 1,500 left. Divide that by 250. A possible number of 250 bonuses is 6. That's correct. Number 17. Asked to solve for b. I got 2x multiplied by 5. That's going to give me 10x. Then I've got 3 times 3x. That's going to give me 9x. 10x, 9x. That's going to be 19, which means 19 is my correct answer there. That's checked. 18 right here. Okay, this one's just similar triangles. I see I've gotten going from a 10 to a 5, solving for CE. Okay, CE is going to be this. Going from 10 to 5 is halving. We're going to have 8, get 4 here. 4 plus 8 is 12. That one's checked because I believe I answered 12, and I did. Number 19 down here, we've got solving for the value of a and pi over a for angle AOB. I know the angle AOB because it's a 60, 30, 90 triangle. Since we have a root 3 here and a 1 there, that's going to have to be 30 degrees, which I know is pi over 6. So 6 is correct there. Okay, number 20 right here. All right, I'm looking at dividing by 5 to go from 60 to 12. So I just divide 8 over 5 to solve for b, 2 over 5 to solve for a. At that point, I just run this division set right here. That's correct as well. Okay, now I go back and answer or check my work on 10 through 15 as much as I can. Number 10 right here. Okay, we're asked for which one's always going to be greater than or equal to -1. I selected an answer that's squared. That's always got to be equal to or greater than 0. That's correct. Number 11. Multiplying by complex conjugate. I see that I did that. When I did that, I see I get 8 times 8, 64, and then plus 2 times -2i. I know that's going to end up giving me plus 4. 68 is correct there. Up top, I got 3 times 8. That's 24. Then I've got -5i times -2i. That's going to give me positive 10i squared, which is going to be -10. That's correct. And then I'm going to end up with negative 40i, because negative 5i times 8 is negative 40i, and then minus 2i times 6, that's going to be this right here, that minus 6i. So I got to end with minus 46i, which I can simplify down to negative 23i over 34, which I see I've got the only answer with right here, so that's correct. Number 12. I'm solving right here. Got to multiply each side by that, which I did. That's a check right there. And then I multiply that there, check. Okay, after that point, I've got NR plus FR, subtract each side by FR, go ahead and get rid of that 1 minus R, and that's going to solve for my answer there. That's checked as well. All right, number 13. Okay, what's the sum of all values of M? I get rid of my 2 here by factoring it out. At that point, I've got that negative R1 and R2, since that's got to be positive and that's got to be negative. I go ahead and flip my sign since I know they have to equal negative 8, and I see that that's going to equal positive 8. That one's checked as well. 14, I got decay, radioactive decay, so exponential decay. That's decaying at 13%, so whatever's left is going to be 0.87 to the power of t times my initial amount, which is 325. That one's correct as well. Okay, 15, I've got an expression right here. This is just division, so I just divide it. 5 times x gives me 5x. That cancels there. Then I got 5 times 3, that's 15. Negative 2 minus 15, remainder 17. That one's checked off as well. So at that point, I've checked off all my answers. I got about a minute left. If I was doing this as the real SAT, what I do is I just go back through my answer sheet, my bubble sheet, just make sure everything matches my bubble sheet just one last time. And yeah, so we've got basically 40 seconds. So if this were the real SAT, I just run it back to 1, and I just check, go through my bubbles, just make sure I bubbled everything the same as what's in my test booklet. So once again, hopefully, this time ends in 30 seconds, so I'm just going to talk basically as my conclusion to this video now, since I don't have a bubble sheet to check. So basically, hopefully this was helpful. So yesterday, you did this on your own. What you should really now try to think about in the next couple minutes, if you want to pause the video, you can, but really just try to think about anything that you did differently that cost you time. So anything I did more efficiently than you did, you should try to do in the future, because it'll save you time. And hopefully you're getting the understanding about just how important time is here. Okay, the other thing that you should understand is that if you're not able to do it this fast, that's okay. Okay? If you're not able to check your work on every question, that's okay. Just understand that. It's okay if you can't check your work on every question. You notice how I'm struggling to check all of them, right? I have to really kind of rush through my checking. If it takes you 20 minutes to answer every question and you only have 5 minutes to check your work, you're going to be okay. Because if you're answering every question and you're confident that you got it right, and you say you don't have time to go back and check your work, you should still feel fairly confident that you can still score perfectly. Because if you're at the point where you're watching this full 90-day SAT prep course and you're spending all this time, you're going to be very, very prepared. And if you're able to have 5 minutes left to check your work, at that point, if you're getting all of these done in 20 minutes, you have 5 minutes left to check your work, you're in a pretty good spot. So you're in a pretty good spot at that point to score fairly highly, in my opinion, on the SAT math section. So really just be okay with that. You know, obviously keep trying, because we still got, I think days today, I think I said it was 50 or something. You still got 40 days, so you're still going to get faster. But yeah, don't stress if you're not able to have 10 or 8 minutes left to check your work. Just understand, if you have 5 minutes left to check your work, just make sure you're checking the ones that you struggled the most on. So if there were any that you struggled on, check those first. But yeah, just try to stay confident, stay calm, stay collected, don't stress. Just remember, it'll be okay. We still got 40 days if you're planning to finish this full 90-day SAT prep series before you take your test. So just stay calm, trust the process. And with that, let's go ahead and switch sections. All right, for the reading section today, what you'll be doing is you'll be practicing pacing once again. So pacing for the SAT reading section is very, very important, which is why you'll be practicing that again today. So today you'll be doing the third passage from SAT Practice Test 4, but before you get started with that, I want to obviously give another quick refresher on pacing the SAT reading section so you can keep on practicing these tips and these tricks as you go through it in order to help you maintain that strategy that you've been working on for the past couple of days. So with that, let's go ahead and do a quick refresher. So the first thing obviously we have to do is we have to read the passage. So I'll go ahead and get a highlighter out so you can see what I'm looking at. The first thing we're going to have to do is read the passage. After that, we're going to have to go through and answer the questions. But while we read the passage, there are some things that we can do to help us improve our chances at getting questions right. So as we read the passage, we're not going to want to skip lines, because if we're skipping lines, we're not going to understand the big picture of that reading section, and we want to understand the big picture of the passage. The next thing, we're not going to try to predict anything, because if we're trying to predict things and then we're wrong, then we just wasted that time trying to predict. The next thing we want to understand is that our feelings about the text don't matter. Any feelings that we may have towards what an author says, or what an author, how they're phrasing things, or what they believe, any feelings we have will not matter and will not help us get to the correct answer. So we need to understand that our feelings don't matter on the SAT reading section. Also, we don't want to reread anything on our first read through. If we read something and don't understand it, we keep on moving, because if we reread and then we didn't have to because it wasn't important to the text, then we just reread and wasted time for nothing. The next thing, we're going to write little to no notes, because if you're taking a lot of time to write notes down, you're going to not have as much time to answer the questions, and you don't even know if what you're taking notes on is going to be important or be tested on any of the questions. So you could be taking notes on one paragraph, and that paragraph could never be asked about in the entire 10 or 11 questions that are on that test. The next thing, you want to stay interested. If you're staying interested, you're going to be able to remember it better. It'll help you with reading comprehension and answering things like that. So always stay interested in the passage, even if it's something that you wouldn't read on your own outside of taking the SAT. Make sure that you're staying interested as you read it. Okay, now we get into my recommended pacing strategy. So obviously the pacing is going to deal with the whole entire test as a whole, but with individual passages like you'll be doing today, you want to make sure that you're reading the passage and making any annotations on your first read through. So that entire first read through with any annotations you want to make, that should take less than 4 minutes. So for sure less than 4 minutes. Now ideally it should take anywhere from 3 to 3.5 minutes. If you're getting it done in 3 to 3.5 minutes, you're in that perfect range. If it's taking you about 4 minutes or a little under 4 minutes, that's still good as well. Okay, the next thing, you want to aim to answer all the questions on one passage in anywhere from 9 minutes to 11 minutes. So the reason you want to do that is because if you're answering all of those questions on one passage in anywhere from 9 to 11 minutes, that'll leave you with 10 to 20 minutes at the end to check your work. So today, obviously, you're only doing one passage, so you want to make sure that you're completing that passage in that 11-minute time span. So obviously, I will have a little message on the screen once the time starts that says your 11 minutes has started, and then once that 11 minutes is up, I will obviously tell you. So you will hear me, as long as you let the video keep playing, you'll hear me tell you that. So you want to make sure that you're doing this in 9 to 11 minutes. Now you want to do the passages in the order that they're easiest to you, but obviously you're not going to be able to do that today because you're just doing one single passage. But what we do want to touch on as well today is skipping questions that you feel very unsure of after 30 seconds. So if you're spending time on a question and you're 30 seconds into it and you have no clue what it's asking, just go ahead and skip it. So just star it and skip it. Now keep in mind, you don't want to end up skipping more than 3 questions per passage, because if you're skipping more than 3 per passage, you're going to end up running out of time even at the end when you go back and you try to find answers. There's no way you're going to be able to answer them all if you're taking 11 minutes and you're also skipping 3 per passage. Now, if you're taking 9 minutes per passage and you're skipping 3 questions, you'll be okay because you'll still have 20 minutes at the end then to go back and answer those 15 that you skipped in total. Now, if you're taking 11 minutes and skipping 3, then that's going to be difficult for you to go back and answer those 15 questions in 10 minutes. That would be bad pacing. So if you're going to skip those 3 questions on each passage, make sure that you're getting it done in 9 minutes. If you're not skipping any questions, or you're only skipping 1 question per passage, then getting it done in 11 minutes is perfectly fine. So understand that sort of correlation there. That can be very useful. So keep that in mind. So yes, you could skip 3 questions on this passage today, but if you do so, make sure that you're completing it in 9 minutes rather than 11. If you're not skipping any or you're only skipping 1, it's perfectly fine to complete it in 11 then. So with that, at this point, we're going to go ahead and get started with that passage. So it's SAT Practice Test 4. SAT Practice Test 4 is not linked in the description, I do not believe, so you're going to have to Google that one. Just Google SAT Practice Test 4. You'll find a PDF of it on Google. Click on the PDF. Just go to that third passage. If you print it off, you can print it off if you want, or you can just do it from another tab and let that timer go, and obviously I'll tell you when that 11 minutes is up. So either way, whatever you want to do, just go ahead and pull that up and make sure that you write your answers down on a piece of paper. And with that, we're going to go ahead and get started in 3, 2, 1. Your time has begun. Okay, your time is now up, so that was 11 minutes. Hopefully you were able to complete all the questions, or maybe only skip one, or if you completed it in 9 minutes, hopefully you only skipped 3. That would be ideal for the pacing strategy that hopefully you're using, the strategy that I recommend. If you're using that strategy, that would be what would be ideal in this scenario. So with that, what will happen now is I'll go ahead and do a walkthrough of how I would approach this if I were doing the SAT reading section myself. So anything I highlight is obviously something I'd be underlining if this was a handwritten SAT. I know that it's quite possible in the future the SAT will move online, in which case I would imagine they have some highlighting tool or underlining tool you can use online. So this would be things I'd be doing that too as well. So with that, let's go ahead and get started with that walkthrough. Make sure you check your answers, see what's correct, incorrect. Also make sure that you pay attention to how I'm getting to my correct answer, because I try to do it in an efficient manner. That also uses strategies that you can use as well in order to help improve your efficiency and make sure you're getting to that correct answer and getting rid of wrong answer choices in a faster way. So with that, let's go ahead and get started with that walkthrough. Questions 22 to 31 are based on the following passage. This passage is adopted from Emily Anthas. Frankenstein's Cat is the title. Copyright 2013 by Emily Anthas. When scientists first learned how to edit the genomes of animals, they began to imagine all the ways they could use this new power. Creating brightly colored novelty was not a priority. Instead, most researchers envisioned far more consequential applications, hoping to create genetically engineered animals that saved human lives. Warner Bros. Is now delivering on this dream. Welcome to the world of farming, in which simple genetic tweaks turn animals into living pharmaceutical factories. Many of the proteins that our cells crank out naturally make for good medicine. Our body's own enzymes, hormones, clotting factors, and antibodies are commonly used to treat cancer, diabetes, autoimmune disease, and more. The trouble is that it's difficult and expensive to make these compounds on an industrial scale, and as a result, patients can face shortages of the medicines that they need. Dairy animals, on the other hand, are expert protein producers, their udders swollen with milk, so the creation of the first transgenic animals, first mice, then other species, in the 1980s gave scientists an idea. What if they put the gene for a human antibody or enzyme into a cow, goat, or sheep? If they put the gene in just the right place, under the control of the right molecular switch, maybe they could engineer animals that produced healing human proteins in the milk. Then doctors could collect medicine by the bucketful. Throughout the 1980s and 90s, studies provided proof of this principle, as scientists created transgenic mice, sheep, goats, pigs, cattle, and rabbits that did in fact make therapeutic compounds in their milk. At first, this work was merely gee whiz, scientific laboratory lab-bound thought experiments come true. That all changed with Atrin, a drug produced by the Massachusetts firm GTC Biotherapeutics. Atrin is antithrombin, an anticoagulant that can be used to prevent life-threatening blood clots. The compound made by our liver cells plays a key role in keeping our bodies clot-free. It acts as a molecular bouncer, sliding up to clot-forming compounds and escorting them out of the bloodstream. But as many as 1 in 2,000 Americans are born with a genetic mutation that prevents them from making antithrombin. These patients are prone to clots, especially in their lungs and legs, and they are at elevated risk of suffering from fatal complications during surgery and childbirth. Supplemental antithrombin can reduce this risk, and GTC decided to try to manufacture this compound using genetically engineered goats. To create its special herd of goats, GTC used microinjection, the same technique that produced glowfish and aqua advantage salmon. The company's scientists took the gene from human antithrombin and injected it directly into fertilized goat eggs. Then they implanted the eggs in the wombs of female goats. When the kids were born, some of them proved to be transgenic. The human gene nestled safely in their cells. The researchers paired the antithrombin gene with a promoter, which is a sequence of DNA that controls gene activity. That is normally active in the goat's mammary glands during milk production. When the transgenic females lactated, the promoter turned the transgene on, and the goat's udders filled with milk containing antithrombin. All that was left to do was collect the milk and extract and purify the protein, and voila, human medicine. And for GTC, liquid gold. Atrin hit the market in 2006, becoming the world's first transgenic animal drug. Over the course of the year, the milking parlors on GTC's 300-acre farm in Massachusetts can collect more than a kilogram of medicine from a single animal. All right, so now let's go ahead and get into our questions. Okay, so we've got question 22, the primary purpose of the passage. All right, well, if we think about this passage as a whole, what we really do is we're talking about the whole development of this phenomenon, right? So we provide background really throughout most of this passage. We're providing the background, and then at the end, what we're doing is we're getting into that medical breakthrough. So our correct answer there would be A. We present the medical background, talking about things in the 1980s and 90s, and then eventually we get to that breakthrough in that GTC company's drug that is preventing those blood clots. So our answer there would be A for the primary purpose. Now, the author's attitude towards farming is best described as one of what? Well, the author is obviously he does appreciate what farming has brought. He describes farming as something that is obviously good. Now, he's not ambivalent for it because he thinks that it's a very, very good thing. He's also not apprehensive towards it. Okay, he's not someone who is saying that it's a bad thing or something that needs caution. He's also not someone who's saying, so that's why it's not apprehension. He's also not someone who's saying that it's good or bad, or he's not neutral on it, right? He's someone who's saying, hey, this is a good thing, right? He's not neutral. He is saying that it is good. He's saying that he appreciates it. He's saying it's a good development in technology and in medicine, but he is not astonished, right? He talks about how this is something that's been going on for 30 years, so he's not astonished by it, but he's definitely appreciative of it as an advancement in technology. All right, 24. As used in line 20, expert most nearly means what? Well, let's go take a look at line 20 and see what we think expert would mean, because we want to understand that that's a words in context question. So we have dairy animals, on the other hand, are expert protein producers. Well, a good word there would be excellent protein producers. Let's see if we have anything like that. It has to show something that they are able to produce proteins. Knowledgeable doesn't show they're able to produce proteins. Professional doesn't show they're able to produce proteins. Capable, that does show that they are able to produce those proteins. Not trained either. So our answer for 24 there would be C. All right, 25. What does the author suggest about the transgenic studies done in the 1980s and the 1990s? Okay, well, let's just run through our answers here because this one's going to be a little bit tough. We know in the 1980s and 90s, I have evidence for my next line. So actually, instead of running through the answers, I'm going to go take a look at the text because I'm going to need evidence anyways. So I want to know what this author is really saying about these studies that are about these transgenic studies in the 1980s and 90s. So let's go take a look at what he's saying about them. Okay, so I'm going to look at my highlighted portions first. I see that I have 1980s and 90s in my middle left of my screen. So if I go down to my highlighted portion on that paragraph, I see the compound plays a key role in keeping our bodies clot-free. Okay, that's not really talking about the research in the 1990s at that point, though. That's talking about atrin. So I want to go back up, and I want to read more about this 1980s and 90s I read here. So I have studies provided proof of principle as scientists created transgenic mice, sheep, goats, pigs, cattle, and rabbits that did in fact make therapeutic compounds in their milk. At first, this was merely gee whiz, scientific geekery, lab-bound, thought experiment come true. Okay, so that's telling me that it's not really applicable to humans at that point, so it was really just in the lab. Okay, so my answer there would be B then. They were not expected to yield products ready for human use. It was really just lab and geekery, things dealing with chemistry, dealing in the lab, but not ready for human use at that point in time. So answer for 25 there would have to be B. All right, now we got 26. It says, which provides the best evidence? Okay, I want to find the spot that talks about scientific geekery like I just talked about. So I see that that's 35 down to 36. So let's see if we have evidence as that. 35 to 36. I see I do, so my answer for 26 then would be C. All right, now we got question 27. Let's take a look at question 27. According to the passage, which of the following is true of antithrombin? Antithrombin. Okay, well, I know that that's the same as that atrin, right? And I know that I talk about how atrin is able to reduce those blood clots, so it's able to help promote blood flow by stopping those blood clots. So let's take a look at what our options are for 27 there. So we have option A, it reduces compounds that lead to blood clots. Yes, right? It's stopping those blood clots. Option B, it stems from a genetic mutation. No. Option C, it's a sequence of DNA known as a promoter. Also incorrect. C or D, it occurs naturally in goats' mammary glands. Also incorrect. So our answer for 27 is going to be A. 28, which choice provides the best evidence that it can stop those blood clots? Okay, that's going to be in the bottom left of this paragraph here, where we start talking about how it acts as a molecular bouncer. I'll go ahead and circle this in green so you can see it better. It's the bottom left of your screen. It says it acts as a molecular bouncer, sliding up to clot-forming compounds and escorting them out of the bloodstream. So it would end right there. So that's talking about how it's getting rid of those compounds that cause blood clots and getting them out of the bloodstream. So that would be from 42 to 44 would be my best answer there. 42 to 44. So let's find our answer for that one. We see that that's going to be answer choice B for number 28. All right, so now we got question 29. Which of the following does the author suggest about the female goats mentioned in line 59? Well, let's go to line 59 and see what he's suggesting about these female goats. So we have in line 59, we see that we have then they, which are these female goats, implanted that, or then they, not the female goats. They is referring to these researchers, these scientists. Okay, they implanted the eggs in the wombs of female goats. Okay, now what? What happens to these? We have the kids are born. Some of them prove to be transgenic. Okay, the human gene nestled safely in their cells. Okay, that means that these goats then, they're offspring of these female goats, so their children have human DNA, so they do not carry the DNA of that goat. Okay, so let's go down and find an answer choice that says that. We have option A, they secreted antithrombin in their milk after giving birth. That is not correct. We have option B. Some of their kids were not born with the antithrombin gene. Yes, right. They were not born with that antithrombin gene, right, because they were transgenic. So our answer there would be B. They were transgenic, therefore they did not have that antithrombin gene. So we have B for number 29. Now we can take a look at option 30. So 30 says the most likely purpose of the parenthetical information in lines 63 to 64 is to do what? Let's take a look. So we have 63 to 64. We have which is a sequence of DNA that controls gene activity. Okay, I see that that's describing my promoter, so it's defining what a promoter is. It's a sequence of DNA that controls gene activity. So since we are defining a promoter there, we are defining a term. So our answer there would be D. So D would be our answer for 30. All right, 31. Let's take a look at that. So we have the phrase liquid gold in line 71. It most directly suggests what? Well, let's go to line 71. Let's take a look at what liquid gold is referring to. Okay, we've got and voila, human medicine, and for GTC, which is that company that produces Atrin, liquid gold. So it's saying that milk containing antithrombin that I'm circling in green up top, that is the liquid gold. Okay, so that's the liquid gold. So that Atrin is the liquid, or that milk containing Atrin is that liquid gold. So let's go down. We see we have option A, GTC has invested a great deal of money in the technique. No. B, GTC's milking parlors have significantly increased milk production. No. C, transgenic goats will soon be a valuable asset. No. D, Atrin has proven to be a financially beneficial product for GTC. Yes, right? It's a gold mine for them, or liquid gold. So our answer there for 31 would be D.